Former champions Leinster up against defending champions Exeter, and it is Leinster who get it done. Away from home, 34 points to 22. It's pretty comfortable in the end, you'd have to say, but they had to work for it, man. Leinster went behind early. Exeter certainly looked the sharper of the two teams. That may or may not come down to the extra week off that Leinster had. I don't know, but yeah, a bit of a reversal from the previous week where Exeter are the ones to go behind. I'll go over some of the key events of the game, some of the stats, my thoughts, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one went. So it's going to be Leinster up against a French team next week, that's for sure, because Sale also got knocked out, and these guys were always going to play, either winner was going to play the winner of Clermont and Toulouse anyway. So Leinster has now gone from being the only Pro 14 representative to the only non-Top 14 representative in this competition. And they'll give whoever it is a bloody good run for their money, man. Like, Leinster proved why they're a team which is virtually international team. But as I said, Exeter did not make it easy for them by any means. 3 minutes, 2 if you go by the stats. I think it was 2.5 minutes maybe. Exeter got the first try of the game. They'd gone for a scrum, Exeter, early on, and it was just too easy, man. It was like 3 passes from the back of the scrum, and there was just a gaping wide gap. I think it was it after like Sexton, Henshaw, and then there was a gap. Keenan tried to cover it, but he was left with a bit much to do, and O'Flaherty went over for his first try, 7-0 within a couple of minutes, and then, believe it or not, the guy has a double before there's even 10 minutes on the clock. This time it's a bit different. It's not like one snappy set play. It's Exeter going through like 13 phases. They had a heap of good hands in the off, like the build up, some offloads, and I think Slade, he goes through like Furlong and O'Loughlin. He manages to get the both of them kind of just the gap between them anyway, and he manages to put through Flaherty, who beats one to go in for a second. I think he beats Lama, and 14-0, and I was shaking my head, man. What's going on? 14-0, looking very, very much off the pace. But from about 10 minutes, Exeter finally started to find their groove. Did I say Exeter? Leinster finally managed to find their groove. Like, Lowe had a big break down the left wing, and man, he looks good at Leinster. Why does he not look as good for Ireland? I guess that's just the difference between test match. But this is virtually a test match with all the internationals on display. Anyway, I know it's not quite the same, but the TMO had to check a knock on. He was potentially setting up Keenan for a try, but there was no grounding for it. On field was no try, so there was no try. But there was a scrum 5 metres out from that held up. Leinster won a scrum penalty, which was encouraging for them to try and come back into the game. From that penalty, they decided to tap it. They get held up, but they had advantage. They went back again, so they tapped it again. And Exeter won a penalty at the breakdown. And you're thinking, that was a crucial one for Leinster to be scoring after being 14 points down. They finally go down Exeter's 22. They finally get some ball because they had bugger all ball at that point. And Exeter managed to hold them out. So it seemed like it was going to maybe be a long day at the office, but it was still early. We're still talking the first 15 minutes. And then it's not long after that James Lowe gets the first try of the match for Leinster. He, I think it starts with a free kick at the scrum, actually, is what kind of leads it off. And Keenan ends up going with a big old break down the left wing. He manages to get Stuart Hogg to bite in, and that gives some space for an offload to Lowe. How Keenan gets the ball away, I don't know, but he managed to do a bit of a miracle ball, and suddenly 14-7, starting to look a little bit peachier for Leinster. Leinster's finally managed to crack that Exeter defence, which at that point has been rock solid. I thought it was worth a note that Sexton was having a bloody good game at that point as well. He goes off not long later, but he finds like one kick through, and it's not often you take notes about that kind of thing, but he puts this little kick through into Exeter's 22, and he's just got the game on a string. But he does go off about 5 minutes later for an HIA, which he fails, which is pretty bad news for Johnny Sexton, man, because he's had a few of those in his career. Hopefully he gets well soon, because it's never nice to see. That being said, Ross Byrne comes on, and I think he runs the show pretty well as well. Leinster don't lose much from Ross Byrne coming on. It's pretty much the same service. So, yeah, good to see from him as well, because I know there's sometimes question marks about that fellow as well. 28 minutes, Lama gets a try. It was they had to check for touch, but as soon as you saw it, you knew that was all good. It was again Keenan drawing and passing. This time, I think, was it Hogg? Didn't run for Keenan this time. He still managed to try and get Lama. He didn't get drawn as much into Keenan, but Lama just had too much space. You can't give him any space because he has got such acceleration that he's really dangerous. And suddenly it's 14-0. Great conversion from Ross Byrne as well. And then he kicks a penalty about 3 minutes later. So Leinster actually go in front. 17-14, 10 minutes to go, maybe before half time. So they've gone from being 14-0 down to 17-14 up. So it's a real momentum shift in this one. 34 minutes, I wrote a note that Leinster were really starting to dominate the breakdown. It was becoming a wee bit of a problem for Exeter. And I wrote another note saying that Josh van der Fleer, in all capitals, is just bloody everywhere. And he was. And that's one thing that you can't coach a player, how quickly they are willing to get up off the ground and just make themselves a nuisance and tackle and tackle and tackle. Fly out of the line. That's just what Josh van der Fleer does. Hill gets a big shot on Ross Byrne, and the TMO and the ref have a look at it. They're talking like it's going to be a red card because it's a forceful tackle with the arm from Hill initially making contact with Byrne's shoulder, and then it kind of rides up with the arm swinging around to clock him in the face. And he's talking initially like he's going to give it a red card, but it ends up eventually just being a penalty only because the initial contact was on the shoulder. But sure enough, they kick the penalty, and it's 20 points to 14. That's half time. So flying start from Exeter. Nobody was tackling O'Flaherty. He just seemed to, I don't know, how do you put it? Like, they used the term cloak of invisibility on the commentary. I don't know that it was that, man. It was just poor. He was, just being very elusive. Great work from him for Exeter. I really rate him. But good mental fortitude from Leinster to come back into it. That being said, Exeter start the second half flying just like they did the first half. It's within 2 minutes they get a try, and it's a proper Exeter try. It's a maul. It's 5 meters out. Leinster don't even jump because they know what's coming. And they might as well have jumped because they would have had a better chance stopping that thing in the air than they did on the ground because it just flew through. Like, Leinster's pack's not one to be messed around with, but Exeter just ripped them at that one. Ripped straight through them. They missed the conversion though, so it was still a 1 point difference, 20-19. I wrote another note. O'Flaherty keeps beating defenders. They've popped up on the screen that by 45 minutes, he'd beaten 10 defenders, which is stupid numbers. 46 minutes, Exeter took an easy penalty, which Sam Warburton mentioned it in the commentary that Exeter don't usually take penalties, but it's a Champions Cup quarter-final, so you take the points, and they go back in front 22-20. Byrne puts Leinster back in front, though, about 8 minutes later to make it 23-22. And then 56 minutes, Lama gets his double. So both of the wingers for each side getting doubles in this one. I wrote the word contort because if you haven't seen the highlights, go and watch it. I know they don't put much highlights on the Champions Cup website or the YouTube channel, but to see the way Jordan Lama contorts his body when he's being tackled into touch, and he still manages to kind of, while falling, fall around to make sure he touches the ball down before his body goes into touch, is amazing. And it's Ross Byrne with a pretty sweet pass that sets it up as well. So give credit to that man as well. Sam Simmons' tackle was about as good as you can get to try and stop a guy from going over in the corner, but it still wasn't enough because of, as I mentioned, the aforementioned contortions of Lama. 28-22, they missed the conversion. So, yeah, kind of a costly miss, that conversion, but it doesn't prove so in the end. But that would be one you would like to really put it beyond one try. Another penalty conceded for a high shot on Byrne. This time it's Kirsten, but it's the same deal as the previous one where it's a contact. here and then rides up, so it's just a penalty. But that does allow Leinster to put it beyond 7, 31-22. Goodness me, my son's not happy with that one. 70 minutes, there's a huge, intense period of Exeter pressure. They're really turning the screws on Leinster. Leinster defence is holding. Eventually, Exeter win a penalty, and they opt not to go for the 3, which would have got them back within try scoring, like one score distance. I would have thought with 10-ish minutes to go, take the 3 now and then opt for the win later. But they went the other way around. We'll get the initial try and then see if we can kick a penalty to win it. But they, on their attack, they gave away an obstruction penalty within a few phases. So it was just a real let-off. I feel like to put that mental pressure on, you take the points. But it's one of those ones where hindsight's 20/20. So if they'd scored, they would have looked like geniuses. But because they didn't, it looks like the wrong decision. Leinster on 78 minutes win a scrum penalty, and I wrote at that point, definitely it's game over. It was probably game over before that, to be fair. But they kicked that 34-22. That's the final score of the game. O'Loughlin does go over for a final try, but that one gets chalked off. And then Exeter do have one last crack at it, but their line-out can't find its mark. So that's how the game ends, 34-22. So pretty comfortable in the end. Like when you've got a more than a 7-point buffer, you had it kind of wrapped up pretty early. Did Leinster? Exeter certainly came out of the blocks in both halves, really firing. But maybe just over the course of the 80, Leinster's extra bit of energy in the legs. I don't know, just the depth they've got in talent. Either way, it was a hell of a performance. And they won't be happy going down 14 points. And Exeter certainly won't be happy, letting them back into the game with a 14-point lead. But, yeah, good game. I didn't watch it live. I watched it on demand this morning because it was on at about 4:30 in the morning. I didn't know the results. So, yeah, pretty happy about that. Stats, it finishes 51-29, the possession to Exeter, but territory is the other way around, 52-48 to Leinster, so pretty even. Defenders beaten is 29-19 to Exeter, actually, but I would say the lion's share of those from any one individual for Exeter would be O'Flaherty. Penalties conceded is 13-10, with Exeter conceding 3 more, so it's slightly costly, especially when you consider Leinster kicked 5 of those. Offloads is 12-7, with Leinster having more offloads, so they really do have all the tricks in their arsenal. Johnny Gray makes 17 out of 17 tackles, which is a huge effort. Van der Fleer makes like 22 out of 24. As I mentioned, he was bloody everywhere. Henshaw, I think, makes 15. He gets star of the match because he continues his Six Nations form just to be involved in everything, carrying, breakdown, and defensively as well. He's got the whole package. Interestingly, the Exeter back 3 all finished with a tackle success rate of 50% or below, which is a little bit concerning. I mean, I think James Lowe finished with 50%, but the other two Leinster guys finished with at least a positive tackle success rate. O'Flaherty and Lowe are both credited with 3 clean breaks. So yeah, the wingers, Lowe, O'Flaherty, and Lama were all looking really dangerous in this game, but ultimately it's probably the forwards that got the job done. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. I did think it was a cracker for a game that's going to be a quarterfinal. I look forward to seeing Clermont take on Toulouse. That will be a huge challenge for Leinster, but if you go into the defending champions and can get a win, that speaks volumes to how far they could potentially go. But all the teams at this point that are remaining, remember La Rochelle got their win in their game as well. They're all pretty classy outfits. So we'll see. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. And if you do like the video, do what Jordan Lama did and just contort and smash that ball down. In this case, you click your mouse on the like button. Do it. Anyway, you guys take care. Talk to you again soon. See you later.